You look
You look
fantastic,
great, but
friend.
welcome back to the
Greetings
show.
from the
Thanks for
display.
playing that game
I
with me,
appreciate
man.
you playing
You're
that
good.
game with
You're
man.
fun to play.
Me. You're doing fine.
We gotta
You're
talk about your
entertaining
new
to play.
film, How to Train Your
We need to
Dragon, but
discuss your
you've
new
already had a
movie,
great
How to
year.
Train
You've
Your
already had a
Dragon.
#1
Nevertheless,
movie,
you've had a
sequel to Den
fantastic
of
year thus
Thieves.
far.
Oh, yeah.
You've had a #1
Congratulations on
film
that.
already. It was a Den of Thieves sequel. Yes, indeed. Well done on it. Thank you. Finally, in 2025, Gerard Butler broke his quiet. About 300. What he said was relaxing. Each day, someone was traveling to the hospital. The film earned $450 million. However, behind the scenes was utter anarchy. Performers were receiving pierced the eye. Bones were snapping. In straightforward scenes, Butler himself barely made it through the filming. For 18, he remained silent for years about what actually occurred. He's speaking the truth now. Regarding the most hazardous film that was shot in history of Hollywood, Butler Gerard was born in Paisley on November 13, 1969, Scotland. At the age of 6 months, his parents relocated the family to Canada's Montreal. However, the move didn't endure for a long time. Just 18 months later, his parents divorced. Margaret, his mother, returned with Gerard and his siblings to Scotland. It's difficult to believe that over the following 14 years, Gerard had not sure if his father was still living or deceased. That quiet came to an end one day when Gerard was 16 years old. After school, he returned home, and his father merely instructed him to don't take off his jacket. His dad was there. Gerard, who didn't cry often, broke down for 5 hours. At that point, the gateway to Toronto's summers and even a journey to Jamaica alongside his father, who had been a mystery at one point. At school, Gerard stood out. In addition to being intelligent, he also likewise popular and motivated. At St. Margaret's and Mirren's high schools, he rose to the position of head boy, the highest student. Throughout the school, then he proceeded to study law at the University of Glasgow. It was among the top legal schools in the nation. There, he didn't only concentrate on his schoolwork. Additionally, he became into, despite this, the president of the Law Society later. He acknowledged that he had kind of spoken his way into that role. However, people admired him. He exuded charm, self-assurance, and in bursting with vitality. Everyone thought he would succeed as a lawyer. However, something significant was concealed by Gerard, although his peers were buried in their textbooks. At night, Gerard performed on stage, singing in a rock group known as Speed. He was without formal instruction, but his heart was in his singing. He sang covers of Doors songs, Eric, Jimi Hendrix, Clapton. In the course of he studied legal theory during the day, and he played at packed bars at night, seeking excitement that literature couldn't give him. He was unaware of it at the time, but these late evenings were the initial indications that he wasn't a lawyer at heart. It was in energy, in performance, and in raw feeling. Then the time arrived when altered everything. He was 27 years old and employed as a legal student in a firm in Edinburgh. Only a week prior to, he qualified by attending the Edinburgh, drank too much, and went to the festival. The legislation, he was immediately sacked by the firm. Only 7 days less than completing the task at hand, it had taken years to build, and it was gone. However, that agonizing moment might have prevented his life. Later, Gerard stated that if he didn't believe he would stay in law. Have made it through. His drinking had turned into hazardous. He drank till he was unable to recall what he had done. He acknowledged that he was heading towards self-destruction. Following determination, he abstained from alcohol entirely and relocated to London. After entering reality struck hard in London, he needed to take any employment he could locate. He bided his time, tables, and dealt with impolite patrons. He worked in calling and telemarketing strangers and pleading with them for purchases they had no desire. However, the most peculiar job of all was street selling toys. He displayed children in market kiosks. How to play with toys, hopeful that their parents would purchase. He was barely making it. He went from almost pursuing a legal career to balancing multiple jobs and making ends meet enough for food and rest. It was sad and taxing, yet he continued to moving. Each job seemed to be a dead end. However, it was also strengthening him. Next, unexpectedly, something occurred. He sprinted into a Scottish acquaintance of his youth theater. She was a casting now director. They not only got back in touch, they began dating. She offered him a job as her helper. Consequently, he was attending auditions and assisting performers in obtaining roles, while attempting to turn into one. Himself, it was an odd sensation. He was very near what he desired, but too far away. He observed people audition each day. Some were excellent, some were terrible. He observed the entire procedure from within, and each and every time he distributed a script or set up a meeting, he reasoned that might be me. In the end, it was him. One day, she brought him to a tryout for a directed by Shakespeare. The play Carinus by Berkoff. Stephen, according to some, she arranged it. Some claimed that Butler pleaded with Berkoff in a coffee establishment for the sole purpose of reading. In any case, he put his all into it. According to Berkoff, he was more energetic than anyone else and immediately threw him out. And in one rendition, Butler was placed in the group. He took the lead in the other function. However, both versions concur on one something. This was the turning point. His existence, he stopped giving away scripts to play the lead in the show. He was 27 years old. It was his first time acting really work. And after that, as he walked home, he claimed that after receiving the part, it felt like the most joyful time in his life, such as at last, something clicked inside of him, and he got a little part. In the movie in 1997, Brown misses it was supposed to be a peaceful BBC TV proposal, followed by Miramax purchased it and made it public. Abroad in the end, it made Judi Dench received $13.2 million and was introduced to splendor of the awards season. Butler performed a small role, but the movie transported him to the Cannes Film Festival. It was the initial when he noticed the world's attention. That Butler received a small part in Never Die Tomorrow. He appeared on the screen for only a moment, portraying a crewman with not a line. However, that second was crucial. The Bond movie made $339 million and was 1997's fourth biggest film. Since it opened on the same day as the Titanic, lost the top place at the box office. However, Butler had a great time on that set. Direct observation of how high-budget movies were produced. He was taking in everything. Even if no one knew his name, he may not yet. His first significant role as a celebrity came in the 2000 film Dracula. It appeared to be a large take-a-break. $54 million was the budget, and despite the high expectations, the film failed. Only $47 million was made and didn't get back the money it spent. Butler, however, made a mark. Despite being a vampire, his Scottish accent faded as he applied cosmetics through. Rather than harming the role, it made his portrayal of Dracula feel more and more authentic and unvarnished. He had put on weight for the part and shown his physical change himself, something that would become his signature in a subsequent activity. Roles. Shortly thereafter, he appeared in the ALA miniseries. It operated for about 3 hours and allowed Butler to demonstrate greater, more than muscle or fear. He performed a famous fighter in combat situations and dramatic intensity. The project demonstrated he could handle larger roles in Hollywood. When he turned 30, everything changed. He relocated to Los Angeles at that time. On November 13, 1969, he was born. Thus, he made the leap towards the end of 1999. He had no savings, nothing planned, and no backup. London was where he had been call centers in operation, waiting tables, as well as playing with toys at fairs. He later said that initially he simply wanted fame, but he ended up at just in time. Hollywood was seeking powerful, dramatic performers who didn't resemble your average Hollywood stars. Butler was appropriate at the time. Within a year of he moved and got 4 big parts, he appeared in Tomb, Lara Croft, and Dracula 2000. Raider, Life's Cradle, My Love, The Phantom of the Opera, and Frankie. It was a quick ascent for someone with only spent a couple years in theaters earlier. Despite Dracula 2000 having failed to make a profit at the box office, studios in which Butler may direct a film, and they only needed to see that, although shooting Tomb Raider, The Return of Lara Croft, Gerard Butler's 2003 book, Cradle of Life, discovered himself in a situation that could have resulted in catastrophe. He was suspended, upside down, practicing a scene of action when a prop gun had to be fired. The issue was that he had no authority over where the firearm was aimed. He fired without thinking. A gunshot barely missed its target. The face of Angelina Jolie. After several years, he acknowledged that everything could have gone terribly incorrect. Insane, he said. Despite all the safety regulations in place, it's still possible for things to go wrong. That moment served as a reminder to many of how these movie sets can be quite hazardous, particularly in light of recent disasters use prop firearms. After a year, Butler made an unexpected move. He turned into the Phantom of the Night's Phantom opera. He wasn't meant to be the one. The Hugh Jackman was initially desired by the company. However, Van was already being worked on by Jackman. Joel Schumacher, who directed Helsing, searched elsewhere. He had noticed Butler, and after watching Dracula 2000, something clicked. Butler lacked vocal training. He had previously only played with a rock band. However, he astonished me by training hard when he performed the music of the Four the first time. Night. Even Andrew Lloyd Webber was impressed. The film earned more than $154 million globally. It received 3 nominations for Oscars, 3 nominations for Golden Globes, and Butler was considered for a Satellite Award nomination. Detractors didn't adore it. According to Rotten Tomatoes, it only 33%, but the general public didn't agree. More than 250,000 fans gave it an 84% rating on the popcorn meter. Later, Webber stated that the movie was a remarkably excellent rendition. of the theatrical production. In the same year, Butler revealed a different side of himself. He played a subdued, poignant part in dear little drama from Scotland called Frankie. He portrayed a stranger posing as the long-lost father of a deaf boy. It was a delicate, sluggish film that differs greatly from his previous positions. He didn't engage in combat, anybody. He didn't shout or scream. He just had a conversation with a little boy over serial-related novels and tales about soccer. Emily Mortimer performed in The Mom. Despite not being ostentatious, the movie stuck with others. Ultimately, Butler's the character returns the money that he was paid, demonstrating his genuine concern. He prevailed the Breakout Actor Award for Capri and demonstrated his ability to do more than just act or fright. The movie received a 7.7 rating on IMDb with more than 23,000 votes. Butler's ascent was not the result of nowhere. In the year 2000, he took two important roles that put him in the correct direction. The first was the miniseries Attila, in which he, Attila the Hun, was played. First, producers desired a more well-known individual, but they continued to return to Butler. The alternative was Dracula 2000, in which he made a strong to obtain the lead. Additionally, he had little yet significant appearances in the past, such as in 1997, Tomorrow Never Dies was released. Additionally, while he rescued a young youngster while filming Mrs. Brown from drowning, in exchange, he received a bravery certificate from the Royal Humane Society. He was gradually constructing a name. By 2005, fans were discussing him on the internet, posting his videos and interviews. Then the pivotal moment arrived. According to ChatGPT, Gerard Butler didn't simply act out King Leonidas, he turned into himself. However, most individuals are unaware of how odd, draining, and revolutionary it was. A real journey. The whole film in under 60 days, 300, was recorded inside Ice Storm Studios in Montreal, which no longer exists at all, not in reality, just blue, like mountains or battlegrounds, screens. Nearly all of the scenes were staged. Just one horse-shot it was done outside, across a field. Everything else, including blood, walls, and skies. Later, armies were added. The group used blue rather than green, as it was effective. Well, with the red capes of the Spartans, it may seem like a little matter, but it altered everything. From the movie's 1,523, more than 130 visual shots impacts, the total came to 8,631. Distinct VFX elements created by 10 distinct businesses for an entire year. The film was shot sequentially, which is uncommon, but even that was of little assistance when the actors were surrounded by nothing but void. Later, Gerard Butler claimed that he felt totally cut off because there was nothing to observe or do. Respond to, merely another performer in front of, behind him, and a sea of blue. That mental detachment was among the Tim Connolly was brought in for these reasons. He wasn't merely a stunt duplicate. He received training. Butler performed his perilous scenes, and furthermore, performed as Leonidas' father in the flashback. It wasn't intended to be a major assertion, but it ultimately turned into anything metaphorical. Connolly molded the then. Behind the scenes, Barton Warrior moved to face the camera as the one who, in the narrative, created him. It turned into this peculiar fusion of actual life and fiction. In fact, Butler suffered injuries during filming. His arm's tendon was torn, and created a foot dip, which made even more crucial as Connie's assistance. It's uncommon for a paternal figure in Hollywood to serve as a trainer and protector in actual life. Another particular in the film that people don't watch: the plume on the helmet of Leonidas. All true Spartans wore feathers. However, Zack Snyder made a daring choice. He just offered the black plume to Leonidas. In settings with hundreds of soldiers fighting, it was simple to find the king. Your gaze was always attracted to him. That plume turned into a kind of the narrator's silence. It led you through the confusion. Additionally, it was beneficial throughout editing as the conflicts weren't actual. The army was mostly computerized, yet the team received something substantial from the plume to monitor, something linking each shot. These days, imitation helmets featuring the "You may still buy black plume" online. There's more now, more than a prop. It is a fragment of history of film. The exercise that made King Gerard Butler was not from a normal family. Hollywood personal trainer. It was made by mountain climber Mark Twight, who acted as though the cast were getting ready for a mission that could mean the difference between life and death. The entire training period was 4 months. It wasn't a fast preparation, and among all involved, just 17 individuals finished the last exam. Only half of the team was there. Twight did more than just shove them. He observed each rep and each motion. If it wasn't flawless, it wasn't relevant. The pressure so unsettled the actors. In fact, they did worse. It was not simply a workout, but a mental battle. His objective aimed to foster confidence between the actors and verify that it appeared on camera. The 300 workout was the name of the test, and it was cruel. Start with 25 pull-ups, then 50 135-pound deadlift. Next, 50 box jumps and push-ups on a 2-foot platform, 50 floor cleaners, 50 disinfectants, and uses a 36-pound kettlebell for pressing, and 25 more pull-ups to complete. Not really take a break in between. It required a few people, 15 minutes for some, 45 minutes for others. Yet each round had to be completed in a single proceed. That's the origin of the name. 300 total reps. What most people are unaware of is that it wasn't a regular occurrence. It was a one-time task to demonstrate who was prepared, and it was successful. That deadlift weight can seem simple, but once you've completed more than 200 reps, it becomes into something else, a wall that not all could persevere. Here is the wild part. Section. The majority of the time, they never performed one workout again. Twice every day, everything changed. The routines were intentionally random. The actors were never able to get comfortable. One day, tires were being flipped. Next, they were using 50 pounds to lift till they failed. Kettlebells. No comfort, no pattern zone. The intention was to preserve the body. Startled and in survival mode. That's how they quickly altered. The stress on the mind was a portion of it. When you're unsure about what's coming, you're unable to get ready.